Hey, how's it going? This is Hellbent, and today I'm going to be going over how to get through your first prestige as fast as possible. So the goal is to get about 551 exotic particles within the first 2 hours. So I already have my game up, which I'm much further than my first prestige. I'm actually at about 140 billion exotic particles. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my options and reset this game. Okay, so now if I go to my statistics, I have 0. If you notice, I'm on build version 24, so as long as you're on build version 24, everything that we're going to be going over is going to be valid. It'll probably be valid in the next build or so, but you know, some things might change. But anyways, okay, so if I look, I have no prestige upgrades. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously scrounge for my 10 bucks to buy my first cell, and I have a layout that I already have in mind of what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go through and keep my heat under control, keep my power, and I'm just going to build up my reactor with the layout that I want. For the first bit, I'm just going to lay out the cells, and I'm going to let them deplete without replacing those specific cells that do get depleted. And the reason is because later on, once I have the layout that I want, I'm going to go through and just reactivate those cells. So this will be a little bit faster in the long run. So I'm going to have 4 cells, and eventually in the middle of each of these cells is going to be a vent, which is going to make it so that way I don't have to keep hitting manually reduce heat. So the first thing I'm going to do for upgrades is once I can get $100 really easily, like $100, and then still have enough to buy my cells and continue growing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the first upgrade to increase this to remove 10 heat per click. Now you notice that I didn't add this last cell, and that's because this bottom row I want to fill with capacitors, which is going to increase this from 100 up to 200, or it's going to add 100 per capacitor that I add. Okay, so talking, I'm going a little bit slower than I normally would be, but I don't think any delay that I'm going to have in this first few minutes is going to be a big problem. So I'm going to add one more row, and then I'm going to get that heat upgrade, or that remove heat upgrade. Okay, so I have $100, and I'm going to buy this here, which is improved piping, which will change this from 1 to 10. And there we go. Now when I hit manual venting, I'll be able to deal with it a little bit easier. And because I'm going to be doing for the first few minutes, I'm just going to be doing manual, so that way I don't waste my money on vents, because I don't need the vents yet. If I buy the vents right now, it's just going to slow me down. Now I just need to go in and fill up the space. Now if you don't know this already, when you put more than one cell together, so if I have 2 cells that are actually touching each other, it increases their heat and power. So right now I don't want that because I have a very specific thing that I need to have happen. But later on, what I'm going to do in order to increase the power output for my reactor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cells together. But for this first part, for the first half an hour, it's going to be just all cells are just going to be on their own. No other cells are going to be touching them. Okay, now I'm a little bit behind, so what I need to do now is I'm going to buy this first duration upgrade. So this is going to increase the lifespan of my uranium cell by twice as much. So that cost me 100 points. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save up 500 points and buy this, which is going to increase, it's going to double the power output. And that's going to cost me 500, like I said. I'm just going to replace a few of these cells to get some extra power. Okay, there I have 500. I'm going to do that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding in my vents. Now, there's a shortcut, a hotkey, where if I hold shift and then left click on a cell that's depleted, so if I have my single uranium cell here selected, and if I go over and shift click, it will replace as many cells as I have the money for. And the way it works is it works from the bottom of the screen, from the left hand side, working to the right, and then jumping up to the next row, and then going across from the left to the right, and it'll just keep going. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I add in my vent, and I'm going to start at the bottom, so that way when I hold shift click in a second, it will replace those cells. So as you can see, it's replaced a bunch of these cells here, and now I'm just going to continue adding in my vents. Now I gotta get the layout right. Make sure I put my vents in the right spot. Okay, and I got enough vents to add in some more. So I'm gonna shift click on one of these guys, and then same with these ones down here. And I'm gonna continue adding in my vents to fill up my reactor. Okay, I got some cells depleted. There we go. Add in some more. So I'm just shift clicking to replace these depleted cells. Okay, so now my power per tick is greater than the amount that I can store. So what I need to do is I need to buy myself a capacitor. So I got 1,000 points. I'm going to put in my first capacitor, so now I can hold up to 200 power before it fills it up. And I'm just going to finish off adding in the last of these vents, and I'll replace all these cells. So once again, I have 246 per tick, whereas I can only hold 200 per tick, so I'm going to add in another capacitor, so now I can hold my power. Okay, so I think now I can hit for 1,000 points. I'm going to increase the duration of my uranium cell again and continue on. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself about 10 grand. So I'm going to replace all these cells about one more time. And I'm just going to let them deplete this time, and then I'm going to redo my whole reactor with a new layout. So because I can sell off of these capacitors for the exact same price I spent on them, for the moment I can invest in these capacitors, and if I need the money in a few minutes, I can just sell some of them off. Alright. Yeah, I can definitely see I'm going a little bit slower than I normally would if I wasn't talking, but it is what it is. Okay, so I got over this. I'm gonna actually spend 5 grand on this next upgrade to increase the power output. So right now I have a power output of $246 per tick, or power per tick, and now it should be about 300 and something. Yeah, 369 per tick. So I'm just gonna let, like I said, I'm gonna let these cells deplete, and then I'm gonna completely remove my reactor. Okay. So now, just like if I can hold shift and left click to replace these cells, what I can also do is shift and right click to remove all the components of the same type and tier. So I have my reactor emptied out, and now I have a new layout where I'm going to have a vent above and below a cell. And the cell I'm going to use is this one here, which is the double. which has a heat output of 8, and if I hover over the vent, you can see that it does a maximum of 4 per tick. So in order for me to accommodate the heat of 8, I have one above and one below. So that gives me a total of 8. So I can put this cell in here, no problem. So I'm just going to go through my reactor and fill it up in a way that I can add a whole bunch of those cells. So I think I have enough money to do this whole reactor one shot, so that's what I'm going to do. If I need to, I can sell off a couple of these capacitors like I said. And I think once I get this done, I'm going to call it an end for this part, and then we'll continue off on part 2. Because I know everyone likes short videos. Nobody has time to watch a 2-hour video. So I'll break it up into about 15-minute parts. Also, don't forget to hit that like button. Alright, so now that I have these all laid out, I'm just going to click and drag and carefully add in these dual cells. Once I have this in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for my chrono upgrade, which will increase the number of ticks per second, which will, for the first one, is going to double the amount of cash I make per second. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to save 10 grand. I'm going to get this one here, the chrono, improved chronometers, which will add 1 tick per second. So the first one is going to add basically double my cash. So I'm up to 600 per second. Next, I'm going to save up another 10 grand, and I'm going to buy the auto replacement. So if you look up here, you see this infinite sign. As long as this is green and active, if I have the appropriate upgrade for the cell that I'm using, which is in this case is uranium, it'll automatically replace depleted cells. So that cost me 10 grand. And next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start adding in, filling in the space in between all these vents. I'm going to fill with capacitors. And one of the main reasons that I'm doing this, well, there's 2 reasons. One, I want to be able to hold more power, so I'm not wasting the power that I have. And the second reason is there's an upgrade that will actually increase how much heat each of these vents can dissipate per tick, but based on the number of capacitors I have on in my reactor. Okay, so I think I'm gonna, I got about another minute. I can do about another minute. So let me see what upgrades I have here. So I can either increase, I don't really need this anymore because the cells don't cost that much, and I have it so that way they're infinite, so I don't want to spend 10 grand on that. This one here will start auto selling power per tick. It's not that much at first, but it will catch up in the long run. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to increase these ones here. So if I look here, this one's going to increase, it's going to double the base, only the base of the vents. So for the first one, it's going to increase it from 4 to 8. The second time, it's going to go from 8 to 12. Yeah, I think that's... And then I'm going to also do this one here, which is going to increase the amount of heat each of the vents can hold based on the number of capacitors I have. So I'm going to click on that guy, click on that guy. I'm going to hit this one here, which is going to increase the amount of power that each capacitor can hold. And I'm going to click on this one here, which is going to start auto selling. I'm going to do it one more time, and we are good. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here, and we will continue off in part 2. Be sure to hit that like button, and I'll see you on the next one.